afternoon. You're watching Businessworld Live. I'm Jes Delos Santos. Let's go straight to our top story. The Department of Health has reported 8 active cases of the Delta variant in the country after retesting. 4 of the 8 positive patients were detected in Cagayan de Oro, 1 in Manila, 1 in Misamis Oriental, while 2 are returning OFWs. The DOH says all 8 are asymptomatic and will be monitored until they finish 14 days of quarantine. The Interior Department now wants more funding for contact tracers in the country, fearing more Delta variant cases that go around undetected. The DILG says passage of the Biennium 3 could also provide more funds to boost the country's genome sequencing capacity. Several economists already flagged the potentially damaging impact of a Delta variant surge in the country's already fragile recovery. Socioeconomic Planning Secretary Carl Chua acknowledged the higher risk of the more transmissible variant, but says it's manageable with strict border controls and enforcement of health standards. The local Borsa is closed today due to the observance of Eid al-Adha, but elsewhere in the region, the Delta variant continues to weigh on the equity space. The retreat extends today in Asia, with many investors still spooked over the spread of the Delta variant. We're talking rising infections here in Indonesia to Sydney, traders weighing how long a bout of growth, angst, and volatility driven by the outbreaks will last. Big losses here across Hong Kong, Japan, and China. As you can see here, the topics and Nikkei both ending the day down by as much as 1%. The Hang Seng also here in the red, edging lower, close to 0.9% as well. Same thing here with China. More muted decline here for Shanghai, at least down 0.1%. Shenzhen managing to at least stay afloat in the green, up 0.2%. Korean stocks, however, here also in the negative territory, down 0.4%, as well as Aussie stocks here ending the day lower by 0.5%. We saw the same scenario yesterday on our own bourse when local stocks had a nosedive of 1.6%, sending the PSEI back to 6,500. Now, COL Financial said local shares are expected to be grouped in a basket of investments being disfavored by foreign investors, so expect listless trading to persist. The main index has been in the red for the past 3 sessions, already slumping by 3.6% over that period. Let's see how things will fare once trading resumes tomorrow, especially again after that report from the DOH, active cases of the Delta variant in the country. That increases the possibility of the country returning to more stringent mobility curbs. Metro Manila mayors, for one, voting to prohibit children 5 and up to go out once again. Add to that the reproduction rate in NCR going above 1. Once again, this is the first time since April. But a few things might help push some positive sentiment in the market. For one, Del Monte's IPO and listing plan have been approved by the PSE. That includes 699.3 million secondary shares at 54 pesos and 80 centavos each, with public float at 25%. Price setting date is on August 11, with offer period from August 16 to 20, and a tentative listing date on August 27. Not only that, offer price for Philinvest REIT has also been set. That's going to be at 7 pesos a share. The plan is to offer 1.63 billion shares, with proceeds expected at 11.4 billion pesos. Trading for that begins August 12. Now, here are other headlines. We're keeping our eyes on. Local government units posted a 12% hike in their operating income last year, thanks to higher internal revenue allotment and improved tax collections. The Finance Department says LGU's operating income rose to 825 billion pesos last year. This is attributed mainly to the 18% growth in external revenue sources for LGUs, amounting to more than 500 billion pesos. Local tax collections also rose slightly to 189 billion pesos in 2020. The DOF says other transfers from the national government into LGU funds also saw an increase. This comes as cities and municipalities nationwide scale their vaccination rollout and pandemic response. Now, 3 out of 4 Filipinos said they plan to save more due to uncertainties brought by the pandemic. That's according to the Save Smarter study survey conducted by the AIA Group, which found that 77% of 800 respondents want to save more money because of the health crisis. 72% of the respondents said they plan to put aside more buffer money for emergency spending, while 65% said this will serve as financial security in case of misfortune. 62% said the extra money they plan to save will be allocated for medical expenses. The same survey found that 94% of respondents prefer low interest bank deposits, while three-fourths agree that insurance is needed for protection in case of unforeseen events. The health crisis has disrupted organizations across the world, and with the pandemic dragging on, how can human resource leaders adapt to uncertain times and the new normal? To talk more about this and the upcoming 58th PMAP annual conference, we have on the show People Management Association of the Philippines Vice President Ellen Fullido. She is also this year's conference chairperson. Good afternoon, Ellen. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Good afternoon to all the televiewers of Signal TV. Good afternoon to you, Jes, and thank you for having us here
Okay,
on
so
your
first,
show.
can you give us an idea first? How did the pandemic disrupt organizations here in the Philippines? What
So
are the
it
major
has
changes
affected
that
a
you
lot.
saw over the past year?
At the onset of the pandemic, all organizations were not yet ready really to assume the role that we have right now. Everybody was caught flat-footed. A lot of businesses have to immediately scramble onto their feet in order to address the situation. It's a go between maintaining your business, operating, continue to operate, and at the same time upholding the principle of people first. You cannot compromise the health, wellness, and safety of your employees, but at the same time, you're driven to continue in order to sustain the operating expenses, especially the salaries of the employees. As we all know, a lot of businesses have closed, especially those belonging to the MSMEs. Even big organizations have to lay off people. In effect, it has affected the lives of many workers. A lot of workers have to be laid off. They were displaced and have to shift into other jobs in order to sustain their family expenses, etc. In other words, it's survival at its
Mm,
finest during those early periods of the lockdown and the pandemic. So really, it has not just disrupted; it adversely affected the lives of many workers and of the businesses in our country. Not only in our country, but I guess the whole world.
mhm,
Everybody was impacted.
mm. But 1 year into the pandemic, how have organizations adapted? And what do you think are the key trends here that allowed some of these organizations to actually survive?
It's like this. Not everybody, not all organizations would have sufficient funds to sustain their operations, much more pay for the salaries of the employees. We were encouraged by the Department of Labor to come up with ways and means, come up with flexible work arrangements. That's number one. So there's no one foolproof way of doing work already. So there could be skeletal force, there could be shifting, and everybody, almost everybody, around 80% shifted into digitalization. Companies have to send their employees home, start working from home. The first problem was connectivity, use of computers. How are we going to let our employees work from home if they don't have computers? So we have to acquire computers, even send them home with their own desktops, making sure that they are connected. Some organizations, like the organization where I belong, we can do remote work because of a system. We have a digital system in order to continue work. We call it team viewer, but not everybody would have that. Um, I guess there's no 100% foolproof system, but everybody has to come up with something in order to address the situation. In fact, there are large companies where they repurposed, they shifted their manufacturing. For example, they used to produce liquor, but because of the liquor ban, they have to produce alcohol instead and use the alcohol, sell them to medical facilities. In fact, donate a huge part of their production to medical facilities, hospitals, etc. And then HR has to take care of their employees, making sure they are safe, even at the confines of their homes, making sure that they have adequate medical attention, especially those who are experiencing mental illnesses. It's a concern that we have to deal with as HR practitioners, and we have to make sure that those who are affected by the virus, those who were infected, have adequate medical attention and medical supplies so that they are kept safe. And those who were infected and hospitalized can recover fully and go back to work.
Now, earlier, Ellen, you were alluding to that shift to digitization and a remote work setup for some organizations. Do you see this trend extending even beyond the pandemic?
Yes, definitely, because that's the new trend now. In fact, before we used to just hear about digitalization coming in the industrial 4.0, but during the pandemic, everybody has to shift immediately. It's not just about Filipino resiliency. We talk about agility, the speed at which we respond to a situation like this, especially a difficult situation. And a lot more companies now, in fact, this is the in thing now for people who are looking for jobs. It is best that you are really digital savvy, you are techy, because a lot of companies have to adapt to the digitalization, which happened immediately at the onset of the pandemic last year. So really, this is a trend that we're seeing that's going to continue for years. Even after the pandemic, this will go on, and therefore a lot of companies have started, shifting their learning and development into more digitalized setup. In fact, we call the economy now as gig, and therefore with the work from home setup, it is not only work from home, just no. We call it now a hybrid work setup where employees can work anywhere else. So work is where you start working and delivering the results through digital setup, through the digital platform.
Okay, now, lastly, of course, you have this year's conference with the theme Leading People to Higher Ground. Can you tell us more what we should we expect from this year's conference?
Okay. Actually, the leading people to higher ground is the tagline of ANGAT. We coined the acronym ANGAT because this year's Board of Trustees advocacy is to lead PMAP into higher ground. When we say we lead people to higher ground, we would just not want our member employees and employers to be contented with the new normal. The term new normal became an in thing last year because we were caught flat-footed and therefore we have to live up with the situation. We in PMAP said we cannot just be contented with the new normal. We should be moving our members, our employees, the workers all over the country towards the better normal. It's not just new normal. It's working towards the better normal. And therefore, when we say we want to lead people to higher ground, we coined that the acronym ANGAT, which means agility in strategy, nobility in purpose, governance driven, we're action oriented, and of course, technology able. So we have our 5 conference tracks according to the acronym ANGAT.
Mhm.
Okay. There will be 28 sessions for this year, kind of voluminous if you look at it for a 3-day session. This is a full pack 3-day conference where we have 7 powerful keynote speakers, 3 regional summits, which we used to do separately before, but we will do them all together under one national conference. Each of these regional summits in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao are also represented by a weave. The woven fabric endemic into their regions. And then we will weave them all together into a tapestry of all our values, ideals that we want to put all together in order to move people into a different mode now. We have to adapt and continuously improve. We cannot just be contented. We cannot just sit down. We also have 7 plenary sessions, 28 concurrent sessions, and then, of course, the most coveted PMAP awards, which includes also our People Manager of the Year,
Mhm.
People Program of the Year, and the Employer of the Year award, which is the most sought after award by many of the employers. And the difference is that we've also added a new award, which is called Makatao Award. Anybody who espouses a humanitarian endeavor are also being given recognition. And the recognition is not just for private companies. We've also included our organizations from the private sector. So we've started that movement some years ago, and we would like our televiewers, our colleagues, we're inviting them to join us. And as we lead people to higher
Mhm.
ground, to our theme this year, the 58th annual conference, we call it Angat.
Okay. Again, that's going to be a packed 3-day conference happening from July 28 to 30. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon. PMAP Vice President and Annual Conference Chairperson Ellen Fullido.
Maraming salamat, Jess. And again, lahat po tayo, tayong mga Pilipino, mabuhay po tayo, muli, aangat tayo.
And those are the biggest stories from the business and economic front today, July 20, 2021. Catch Business World Live again tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. for the market open and 3:15 p.m. for the market close. I'm Jes Delos Santos. We are One News. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines.